are Confessional Magazine, and this is More to the Story, brought to you today by Iris and Bo, whose toner helps keep my laugh lines in check, because you never know what our guests are going to say. Visit irisandbo.com today and use code CONFESSIONAL for 20% off.
So much love in this heart of mine.
And I'm here with Brett Allan, and he is the voice and face behind the Open Mic podcast. And his story is so amazing, and I can't wait for you all to hear it. And honestly, I'm excited to see you for the first time face-to-face, Mike. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, so Mike, you have this podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's the Open Mic podcast with Brett Allan, and I use my first and middle name, Brett Allan. It's kind of weird, but it's kind of a moniker that has stuck with me since I was in the days of radio. But the short version is that it started out as like a journey podcast, and eventually it has sort of morphed into an interview pop culture podcast. And that actually happened within the last year because of the pandemic. So that's essentially the long and short of it. And I interview celebrities and a lot of different people about their stories and their backgrounds and really kind of what drives them as individuals and creatives. So it's been going for about 3 years total, but really within the last year is when things have sort of started to take off and kind of get bigger than I kind of ever anticipated or expected. So I'm still kind of adjusting to that, but you know, all my friends always tease me and they go, Brett, you know, you interview all these celebrities that, you know, are you whatever, whatever. And it's like, I'm just here to have fun and enjoy it and to hear what other people have to say.
Yeah, and that's like the whole joy of storytelling, and hearing people's stories is just, I don't know, it brings something out of the human experience to just connect and kind of get back to the beginning of how these people got their starts. And that's why it's so exciting to talk to people like you who, you know, you're just, you know, essentially getting your start into this entertainment world. But you said that you were part of the radio. So what did you do with the radio world?
So I was a drive time DJ on the weekends for a small to medium size Christian radio station back in Albuquerque. And so I went to the Broadcasting Academy and really got experience that way as far as like being in front of a microphone. And so I've always had an itch or an interest in talking to people and interviewing people. So I used to interview a lot of musicians and Christian artists and all kinds of different people. So I did that for a very long time. Fast forward, you know, I'm here and I heard about podcasting, didn't really know much about it, and sort of just kind of stumbled my way into it. But essentially, I did that for like 5 or 6 years working on the radio, and that was a lot of fun. So this is sort of a natural extension for myself, I would say, to be able to do this kind of thing.
I mean, I'm already blown away by like what you're telling me, because honestly, it takes a lot to even say the words "I'm a Christian" in society these days.
Yes.
And you were broadcasting on a Christian radio station, which is just amazing and really inspiring that you're, you know, even confident enough to tell people that.
Well, it's just part of who I am. Like, I'm not going to hide it. I don't certainly, you know, kind of blast it in people's faces necessarily, but it's part of who I am and what drives me as an individual. So it's just a natural extension of my personality, to be honest. And I'm thankful for it. You know, I wouldn't be doing it without that. So yeah, I mean, it's just, again, it's part of who I am as an individual, 100%.
Yeah, so I know that we, you know, chatted back and forth a little bit, and you spoke to me about the fact that, you know, you're a single dad.
Yes.
That is best friends with the mother of your son, which is just amazing.
Yeah,
Like,
it's total, it's taken a lot of time and a lot of years to get to that place. But yeah, I mean, we get along quite well. We have obviously a responsibility of raising our son and doing what's best for him. And so, yeah, I mean, we get along really well. And, we've had to make a lot of decisions, obviously, together as far as like his life and the direction that he's going. But yeah, I mean, we've done birthday parties together and I've stayed, they were living down south in Monterey and stayed on their property several times over the summers when I would be with him for extended periods of time. So, it was really just kind of like a relationship out of convenience and helping each other out and just really trying to present the best picture of mom and dad to him as we can possibly be. Now, I mean, we're not like hanging out having dinner and drinks, but I mean, we get along. I would consider her to be a great friend. Yeah, 100%.
I that's inspirational on so many levels for like the kids that are first time experiencing this. Like,
Yes.
it's so important that people can just be adults about being adults.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's no reason to not be. Like, I can't say that every single parent or co-parent would want to do that. I mean, some people just aren't interested in that world necessarily, but for me, I think it's important to just really put aside your differences and capitalize on your strengths and be the best parents for the child that you could possibly be. That way he doesn't grow up thinking mom hates dad or dad hates mom. And, we've never said anything negative about one another to him. And he has a very clear picture of what's happened as much as a 6-year-old can comprehend. But I think past that, we just do the best that we can.
Yeah, I mean, that's like I said, so inspirational to so many people, parents and the children that might be watching or listening to this, because it doesn't have to get ugly.
No.
And it's there's so much other ugly in the world that the family space should remain as clean as possible,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it doesn't have to be big and scary. I mean, he understands mom and dad are like a puzzle, but the puzzle pieces didn't fit together. Like, mom and Jeremy, his stepdad, those pieces fit together just fine. And so that's all he really needs to know or understand. That's not to say, in a year or 2 years or whenever, as he continues to develop, that he might have more questions about, what that whole thing looks like. But really, it's not something that has to be disgusting or a big ugly monster. You know what I mean, Taylor?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Brett. Thank you so much for being even open enough to talk about that, because
Of course.
it's such a big thing. And so throughout your journey, when did you like find your voice in being like, I'm comfortable to speak on the radio and speak about this? I mean, it's not for everyone, right?
No, it's not. Well, I think for me, always growing up, I always had this innate desire to entertain and to communicate. And, when I was little, we used to play radio, my brother and I. We would record songs off the radio on our boom boxes with cassette
Yeah.
tapes.
Yeah.
Some people have no idea what that is, but it was a little square thing that you put in and it recorded music. And I would just sit and listen to the DJs all day. And there were certain songs that, I would wait for to come on and just, play DJ, and just have fun. But I think really like in the last 5 to 7 years is where I just started to kind of grow as I began to heal from my divorce and really just be comfortable about who I am as an individual. But podcasting, I mean, it took a long time because again, it started out as a journey or a confessional podcast, just talking about my life, my divorce, co-parenting, and really was several hundred hours, excuse me, of free therapy, just talking about things.
Yeah,
And just kind of getting my vibe, getting feedback from people, and really just kind of learning about who I was as an individual, right? And that takes time to get to that place. And really, it hasn't even been until the last year where I've really gotten comfortable, talking to people and just viewing them through the lens of that they're human beings just like us, but they just
absolutely.
are highly elevated individuals and public figures, but they're normal people
Hmm.
just like us and struggle just like us, but
Hmm.
they're just on a different level. So I think if you are the most authentic version of yourself and who you are as an individual, then that comes through. And when you're talking to people, and the trick is just learning to put that person at ease and get them to talk about things and sort of coax them out a little bit. And pretty soon, you've got them talking.
Yeah, you've got them talking, and I found that, at least personally, I've made some truly genuine friends
Yes.
from doing this, because so often these, the people like you and I are interviewing are put on a pedestal. And it's almost like not the pedestal that they necessarily asked to be put on. They wanted to be an
Right.
actor. They didn't necessarily always want to be in paparazzi eye. And we're talking to them like you and I are talking.
Yeah, it's not like sometimes, it's interesting. I was interviewing somebody and she has a sister who is very famous, and they all look at her just like Aunt so and so, and they don't really see her through the view of somebody who's a celebrity, right? And it's hard for her to really understand what it must be like for other people to be around her, to be so fascinated and in awe, because she doesn't really look at herself in that light, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
it's not like you said they didn't choose that necessarily. Like most people like that don't set out to become famous. Like that's not really what's driving them to begin with. What's driving them is the desire to be an actor or
The
whatever. Sometimes,
passion.
yeah, sometimes they just fall into it and it happens just so accidentally, and they experience like a certain level of, even on a very minuscule level of success, they're like, oh wow, this is something that I could see myself doing for the rest of my life. And really it's kind of like fascinating to hear them say that, because some know that they want to do it right away, some are like, I'm born to do this and so I'm going to do it, and then others it just kind of happens by
Mhm.
not even by mistake, it's just like, oh, I'll try this, and then they try it and then they just become discovered quite quickly, and pretty soon, work their way up the top to whatever it is
Yeah.
they're trying to get at.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's just really incredible how people's journeys like can go in any direction,
Yes.
truly.
Yes.
Truly. But it's so nice when people like you, like I said, recognize that these are just normal people, right? And talking to them somehow like opens up another, I don't know, level that sometimes the outside doesn't get a chance to see. So
Exactly.
who is who have you interviewed that you could say left like the most like lasting impression on you?
Oh, geez. I get asked this question all the time, and it's really hard to answer because I feel like that they all sort of bring somebody, or they all sort of bring something different and unique. I mean, I don't know. Like, that's a really hard question because I've talked to so many different people, but I think, if I had to narrow it down, like to one specific person, I would say, probably Tim Gunn, I think is probably the one who would kind of be like so surprisingly fascinating to talk to. Um, and then you just kind of walk away and you just feel like a better person after you're done talking to them.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I kind of feel like he and Rolanda Watts, I mean, there's just a list of people um, that just you have these conversations and you're able to share space with them for 30, 40 minutes and really just walk away a better person because of, you know, every opportunity is a chance for them to pour into you. Because the thing about it is like, you know, it's the misconception of interviewing celebrities is that, you know, I'm really not offering them anything other than like an audience and a place to get their message out, right? But they're
Right.
the ones that are bringing far much more value to the platform than I am, because they're taking their time to come and talk about their project or whatever the case might be. So that's really the way that I look at it. And again, Tim was definitely one who you sit there and you're just in awe and fascinated by the things that they have to say, you know. And
Yeah.
it's not even a starstruck thing. It's just kind of like, huh, like today I interviewed Matt Iceman from American Ninja Warrior, you know, and I was just talking to him and it was just like, wow, this guy, like, he started out as a pulmonologist. He wanted to be a doctor like his dad, and found out that he was like getting hella stressed, you know, about the beeper going off in the middle of the night. And so he decided that he needed to just take a year to just kind of relax and quote unquote find himself. So he moved to LA and decided, you know, he had done comedy a couple times, just, you know, horrible experiences, he said, and then got involved with Groundlings in LA. And then, like, after a few shows, somebody discovered him and gave him his first television job. I mean, he had done other things like commercials and things, but after that, but the point
Yeah.
is that once he just kind of stumbled into it, but he's a very humble guy. So, you know, I walked away from that today. I was just like, this is a guy who was leading a perfectly normal life. And now he's just an American fixture as far as television goes. So I guess I didn't answer your question fairly. There's just so many, you know, it's hard to pick one.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it almost, I feel changed after some of my
Yes,
interviews that I've done. I
100%.
feel like this is the reason why I'm even doing this. This is the reason I'm behind the microphone, is to give other people a chance to tell their story. And some of them are so just unbelievable.
Very fascinating for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Brett, when when do you think that your like next biggest interview is coming out? Do you have any idea of what your calendar looks like?
Oh yeah, I have several things lined up. And you know, it's kind of like oftentimes trying to decide how to put them out and how to make it work. So I have a big episode dropping tonight and then tomorrow for sure. I got a last minute call for something. So I have to kind of shuffle things around a little bit, but it's always a challenge because you kind of learn to decide, you know, what you can sit on for a little bit and what needs to go out. And these two have to go out pretty quickly. So I'll have my work cut out for me up until the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so Brett, I also know that like you mentioned PTSD, and I don't know if you're comfortable talking about that
Sure, of
right now,
course.
but what was your experience with your, PTSD?
Well, I didn't even realize I had it until I was married. And then I figured out how quickly I had it. And it's just, you know, kind of dealing with like the trauma that you've experienced in your life, whether it be physical or emotional trauma, you know, disconnected relationships. And really, for me, it just came down to recognizing what the triggers were and getting counseling for it and just being able to recognize it when those moments come up and to be able to counteract them with something that's positive, whether it's exercise, diet, whatever the case might be. But, you know, I had been living with it for decades again, and it just really reared itself in my marriage. And so I think the thing is like talking about it gives it less power, like if you don't talk about it, then it has way more power over you than it should. And not that it can't be serious or sometimes might even require medication of some kind. I think really like the trick is being able to just to counter it and go, okay, it's real, it exists, and then get help, whether it's counseling, psychotherapy, the case may be for different people, for whatever. Do you know what I mean? So you just have to be able to deal with it. But
Absolutely.
I still have moments where I feel like I might be triggered about a particular thing when it comes to like intimacy and relationships and that sort of
Mhm.
thing, letting people in and getting close. So I think it's a process. It's an ever going process for sure.
And I mean, thank you for feeling comfortable enough to
Of
even talk
course.
about it,
Yeah.
because I know a lot of people, and I feel sad that this is the case, but so many people just don't feel comfortable talking about what they've been going through or have been dealing with. And often that's because, the people around you kind of like build this shell around yourself, and you're like, you're not coming in, you're not coming in, you're not coming in, you're not coming in. And you block everyone out that's trying to catch your fall, right?
Yeah, that's very much so. And I think what's worse than just not letting people in is, excuse me, just letting people in at a distance, which is worse because you're allowing them to be a part of your circle, but you're not allowing them to be part of your inner circle, the most and closest intimate parts of your life, right? It's
The
not just about
truth.
sex, but it's about just being transparent and being honest. And there's different circles of intimacy, and there's
Mm.
outer, middle, inner, and then there's like close knit, right? And that's where you learn to put up boundaries to give people certain access to certain parts of your circles of intimacy, right? And so if you can learn that and learn how to manage it, then that's helpful. But like again, as I said, the worst thing you can do is let somebody in and then when they get really close, start cutting them off, because that's when you start
Mhm.
to lose trust and you start to lose all of these things, right? And that's where the
Mhm.
struggle comes in of learning how to mitigate it and to work through it successfully.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it could almost be a lifelong journey. But
Well, it is. Yeah, I mean it never ends, but it's getting to a place where you're not before and continuing to be successful at managing it.
mhm, mhm. And managing yourself is so important, and it's so nice to hear people like verbalize it, because I feel like, especially right now, people are really struggling, right? With a lot of different issues, and it's just to be able to speak on it. Somebody might hear it and they might be okay with talking about it themselves. So
100%.
yeah. So thank you so much, Brett, for joining me today. How can people find you to, listen to your podcasts and subscribe?
The open mic podcast.show is the website. That's where all the interviews said. And if you just type the open mic podcast with Brett Allan on Google, it comes up on all the players. And thank you, Taylor, for having me. It's been a lot of fun to hang out and be on the
Yeah.
other side of the microphone and not be the one doing the interviewing.
Right. So no, seriously, thank you so much. I so value your, just your vision and your light and your joy that you're bringing and sharing other people's stories. And I hope that so many people can find you. Brett Allan, the open mic show. Please look out for him, and he's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Very kind
Yeah, no,
words.
thank you. I'm thrilled to have talked to you. It's really a pleasure.
Yeah, my
So
pleasure. And let me know when you get ready to release it and I'll share it
I
and let
will.
people know about it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Take care. Stay safe.
So much love in this.